policy for our state government. However, in view of the larger increases in expenditures that must be financed, I have not found it feasible to move further toward pay-as-you-go basis this year. My conviction is that through the recommended changes in the basic tax structure and accelerated economic growth, we will be able to meet our goal of pay-as-you-go in the not-too-distant future. Now let me outline my revenue recommendations. The decision to recommend rising taxes is an unpleasant one, but the circumstances are such that it is inevitable. We must all face the fact realistically in the best interest of the people of this state. The strength of the basic tax structure of the state lies in the fact that it is reasonably well diversified and balanced, both from the standpoint of view of equity to the individual and revenue potential for the state under varying economic conditions. In considering changes in it, the objectives were to maintain or enhance these advantages of equity and adequacy in the basic tax structure, and to make certain that the changes recommended will not adversely affect the economic growth of the state. Every means of increasing the return under existing tax rates was considered, and new sources of revenue were studied as well. I concluded that no single tax or group of taxpayers could bear the entire additional tax burden without destroying the basic equity and the balance of our tax structure. The program which has been developed is based upon this principle. One of these recommendations has already been enacted by your honorable bodies, and I urgently recommend the others for your approval. Same bodies accept the major changes in the state's taxes. First, motor fuel tax. Legislation, as I said, has already been enacted to increase the state gasoline tax from 4 cents to 6 cents per gallon, and the tax on diesel fuel from 6 cents to 9 cents. Until this act was passed, only one state had a lower gasoline tax than New York. Even after the 2-cent increase, there will be 35 states with the same or higher gasoline taxes. An increase in the taxes has been recommended repeatedly by the State Highway Finance Planning Commission, also known as the Diefendorf Commission. The yield of this tax increase is expected to be about $69.5 million in 1959-60. The legislation contains provisions for earmarking this increase in a new highway account for highway purposes and for payment of 10% of the new tax increase to counties for county highway purposes. Second, cigarette tax. An increase of 2 cents per pack on cigarettes, and a tax on cigars and other tobacco products is proposed. This will bring the state cigarette tax to 5 cents per pack. 20 other states have taxes of 5 cents or higher per pack. Increased revenue from these changes is estimated at $47 million. Third, racing. The state's revenue from horse racing can be expanded by increasing the number of racing days permitted and allowing the flat track to add a 9th race day each week, a 9th race each day. The yield of this is estimated at $4.5 million. Fourth, a state tax. Additional revenues of $10 million may be obtained from the estate tax by eliminating the 5% discount for payment within 6 months and by moderate increases of 1 or 2 percentage points in each bracket of the rate structure. These changes bring the New York State estate tax more in line with the effective rate of comparable taxes in most other states. Fourth, personal income tax withholding. The withholding principle, now used with the federal personal income tax and non-residents under the New York State personal income tax, should be extended to resident taxpayers. There is substantial justification for this. It is unfair to the conscientious people of this state who pay their taxes that many others have, year in and year out, successfully evaded paying state taxes. Withholding also facilitates payment of the taxes by not requiring large annual or quarterly payments. It provides public funds on a regular, year-round basis. Fifth, income tax law amendment. Together with the proposals for withholding, changes are proposed in the state's personal income tax exemptions and deductions to bring them in line with those under the federal personal income tax. It is proposed that a uniform exemption of $600 for each member of the family be established. While the standard $600 exemption reduces the present combined amount for a husband and a wife, it increases the amount for each dependent from $400 to $600 and thus provides an element of tax relief to large families. I also propose a credit of $10 on the computed tax for each individual. This will help to equalize among the various income levels the effect of other changes in the personal income tax. This credit of $10 is equivalent to an additional $500 exemption in the lowest tax rate, namely the 2% tax rate. Now, to conform further with the federal tax, I propose that our present 10% flat deduction of not to exceed $500 be changed to a maximum of $1,000. This will greatly simplify the preparation of income tax returns for many thousands of taxpayers and also reduce the expense of auditing their tax returns in the Department of Taxation and Finance. In addition, the plan provides for an extra exemption of a full $600 for the aged and the blind. Now, at the same time, the proposal provides for additional brackets to be added to the rate structure. Our personal income tax structure now begins at 2% of the first $1,000 of taxable income and increases by 1 percentage point on each additional $2,000 of taxable income to 7% on all income over $9,000. It is proposed that the following changes be made. 7% on taxable income from $9,000 to $11,000. 8% on taxable income from $11,000 to $13,000. 9% on taxable income from $13,000 to $15,000, and 10% on taxable income over $15,000. All of the above amendments to the personal income tax are estimated to yield $150 million additional for the year 1959-60. Sixth, forgiveness of the 1958 tax. Unless the present law is amended, withholding on the 59 income would require taxpayers to pay income taxes on 2 years' income in 1 year. I recommend 100% of the 1958 state personal income tax be completely forgiven. This will save the taxpayers of the state more than $500 million. I suggest also that the present partial tax relief of $1.7 million to small businessmen subject to the unincorporated business tax be continued for another year with maximum savings of $35 per taxpayer. And now, in summary, may I say, repeatedly I have promised that I would tell the people of our state the facts concerning their state's finances. This I have done in this message. As I stated before, the broadening of the tax structure that I have outlined above and an accelerated economic growth rate. Through these two, it should be possible to achieve our goal of pay-as-you-go financing and restore fiscal soundness to the state. With this sound financial structure, we can move forward with confidence, taking the practical steps necessary to improve the economic climate of the state. For it will be through economic growth, through more job opportunities and higher incomes for the people of the state, that we will provide the needed state services for an expanding population without burdensome taxes. In acting to put our state financial affairs in order, our aims are part of a much broader goal. Economic growth is not an end in itself, nor is a balanced budget. The objective is the enrichment of individual and family life in our state. For this, the 16 million people of the state have placed in us their trust, their hopes, and their aspirations. And now, gentlemen, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to ask that we all have the courage to face this situation squarely as responsible citizens of New York, not as partisans of any party. The budget that I've recommended and the increases in it, 81% of them are mandatory, either by law or obligatory under the statute. And all of the items in the budget I have recommended were proposed by the heads of the department of the previous administration, with the exception of the $15 million that I have urged for increased aid to the city of New York. From those recommendations, I have already cut $50 million and 9,000 jobs. And as I stated, I plan during the course of the coming year to make every additional possible economy and saving through the two programs of study that I've mentioned. And I should like to say to all of you that with these additional $277 million in taxes and with an expanding economy, we can restore this state to a sound fiscal policy and get onto a pay-as-you-go basis. And I should like to ask all of you to have the courage to support this tax program in the interest of the people of the state as a whole. We cannot go on spending beyond our income. We can't expect to get something for nothing. And I should like to say to those of you who do not want to vote for these taxes that I recommend that you then have the courage to propose a cut by statute in expenditures of aid to localities of 10 or 20%, or in aid to education of 10 or 20%, or a cut in expenditures on highway and other construction of 50%. But let's all of us stand up and be counted to bring this budget into balance, either by having the courage to increase the necessary revenues which we have, or by proposing the cuts by statute that have to be made. And I should like to say, in my opinion, we cannot justify the cuts either for state aid to localities or for state aid to education, nor can we justify the cuts to the construction on highways and other things, and therefore I appeal to all of you to join in the approval of the additional taxes required by this state. And I should like to say one more thing. These tax proposals have been labeled as a soak the poor program. They've been labeled as both, if you want to know the truth. But I'd like to speak on behalf of those who have labeled them as a soak the poor program. I'd like to say that 2/3 of the taxpayers included in this program are those up to $6,000 income. They represent 2/3 of all the taxpayers in the state, and they will pay less than 20% of the increase in this tax program. In other words, we have tried to keep the same percentages for each of the income groups that they now have under the tax program in the new program, and I can say to you in all conscience that I think it's an equitable program, I think it's a sound program, and I think it's a program that represents the best interests of the people of this state for the future. Thank you very much indeed. Return to the Senate. I now declare this joint session adjourned. This This sum will provide for the initial expense of expanding the state police by 250 men. The increase will provide more troopers for highway patrol, as well as additional personnel for the Bureau of Criminal Investigation. Second, education, an increase of $2.6 million. Included in this increase of $2.6 million is provision for state scholarships for higher education. Under our education law, the number of scholarships awarded each year is equal to 5% of the number of students in our high school graduating classes. There are now 25,000 scholarships in effect, and they will increase to 27,000 in 1959-60. The Education Department budget also includes an increase of $435,000 for much-needed improvements in our vocational rehabilitation program. Third, State University, up $3.8 million. It is estimated that in the next 10 years, there will be a doubling of the college enrollment in New York State. The State University has an essential role to play in collaboration with our other public and private colleges and universities in meeting this challenge. The state scholarship program mentioned previously aids a large number of worthy high school graduates to attend both public and private institutions for higher learning. Enrollment in the State Teacher College is expected to increase by 1,500 in the year ahead. Enrollment at the state's Agricultural and Technical Institute has increased 13% during the past year. New buildings are being opened at Harper College, and next fall, the new college on Long Island will begin its third year of operation in temporary quarters. To enable the university to meet these and other heavy obligations, an additional $3.8 million in expenditures is requested. Fourth, mental hygiene, an increase of $8.8 million. The operation of the State Department of Mental Hygiene is the largest of all of the services performed directly by state government, accounting in this budget for nearly 30% of the expenditures of state purposes. There are several reasons why, despite encouraging developments of recent years, mental hygiene appropriations must be continued at a high level. After many years of steady increases in the number of patients in mental hospitals in our state, recent years have seen decreases. This reduction is not due to a drop in the incidence of mental illness. On the contrary, larger numbers of persons are being admitted to the hospital, but they are staying for shorter periods of time and being discharged more rapidly due to prompt treatment with new techniques and new drugs. These techniques and drugs are expensive, but we must continue to provide the funds which have made this program and progress possible. Overcrowding remains a problem in many state hospitals and is particularly serious in state schools for the mentally retarded, where the population has continued to increase. Substantial numbers of children under 5 are waiting admission to these schools. Additional facilities will open during the coming year to accommodate these children. Personnel to staff new hospitals and school facilities will require $2 million in the 1959-60 budget. Improved recruitment conditions have made it possible to fill many vacant positions at hospitals and schools. This means better treatment for patients, but it also makes necessary another $2 million for staff salaries. Another $4 million additional is necessary to meet mandatory salary increases in the department, and it has been necessary to make provisions for continued rises in cost of food and medical supplies. In addition, departmental programs, including state aid, are encouraging the development of local effort to prevent mental illness and to discover cases early so that treatment may be prompt and the need for hospital care minimized. Fifth, taxation and finance, up $3 million. Increased funds amounting to $3 million are recommended for the Department of Taxation and Finance to meet the increased workload expected under the new tax program. This also includes added cost of manufacturing full sets of motor vehicle license plates during next year as compared with the tab this year. That's an activity which some may not remember is in the Department of Taxation and Finance. 6, state employees, salary adjustments, and fringe benefits, an increase of $26.2 million. Provision is made for $19.1 million for necessary salary adjustments for state employees in state purpose budget. Another $7.1 million is included as required by law to meet the increased cost of supplemental benefits for state employees, such as retirement, Social Security, health insurance, supplemental pensions, and compensation insurance. The increase of $11.8 million in appropriations as against $7.1 million increase in expenditures for these programs results from relatively low appropriations in 1958 because of the unspent funds being carried forward from 1957. Now, in addition to these larger increases, there are several new or increased appropriations which are small compared to the total budget, but that I'd like to call to your attention because I believe they are important. These are $75,000 to prepare for the state's participation in the 1960 White House Conference on Children and Youth, $45,000 for 2 new agricultural research programs, one to study supplemental irrigation and the other on breeding of dairy cattle. $95,000 in increased appropriations to strengthen the State Commission Against Discrimination. This money will be used for research, regulatory work of the Commission, and administration of the 1958 law prohibiting discrimination in employment of older workers. $50,000 for the Civil Rights Bureau in the Department of Law. $25,000 for the Division of Consumer Fraud in the Department of Law. $111,000 for improvement of parole services, including new positions in the Division of Parole to reduce the undesirably high caseloads that exist today. $80,000 to extend the National Civil Defense Warning System to the county level. And finally, I want to mention the fact that the program of the Division of Fish and Game, which is financed from the Conservation Fund in the State Conservation Department, has been curtailed because costs have increased more than income from license fees. Only limited funds are available for the new wildlife management program that went into effect last April. With the support of the majority of organized sportsmen of the state, we are proposing enactment of the long overdue and generally accepted increase of $1 each in hunting and fishing licenses and $2 in the combined license. This increase of about $1.7 million in revenue will make it possible for the department to restore its program to a proper level. Now let's turn to the state's capital construction program. We must continue to meet our responsibilities to expand and modernize state facilities. The flow of commerce and the safety and convenience of our citizens requires modern, safer highways. Obsolete construction at our mental hospitals must be replaced and new facilities added. To accommodate the thousands seeking higher education, the state university needs classrooms, libraries, laboratories, and other facilities. These are provided for in the capital construction budget. Capital construction expenditures on an individual project often extend over 2 or 3 years from the date of the original appropriation. In 1959-60 fiscal year, expenditures for capital construction are expected to exceed those for the preceding year by $65 million. They consist of payments for work on highways, hospitals, and other facilities already underway. I'd like to repeat that these expenditures are for the payment of work on highways, hospitals, and facilities already underway. The increase in regular appropriations in this budget is $57.1 million as outlined in the following table. Now I'd like to give you the high spots of those items. Highway construction is the largest part of the capital construction budget. During 1958-59, federal aid was at an all-time high, including special anti-recession appropriations, which totaled $246 million to the states. In comparison with this amount, the federal aid allotment to New York State for 1959-60 will only be $180 million. State appropriations recommended for highway construction total $125 million in the coming year, 59-60, an increase of $15 million over 58-59. This will enable us to press ahead with our highway and road building program, including, among others, portions of the Northway, the North-South Expressway linking the southern tier with the St. Lawrence, the Long Island Expressway, and the reconstruction of Route 17 into the southern tier expressway. Appropriations for parkways total $15 million, including funds for continuation of parkway construction on Long Island, for the realignment of and extension of parts of the Taconic Parkway, and for the first stages of reconstruction of the Hawthorne traffic circle. Appropriations also included for grade crossing eliminations total $18.3 million, and $23.5 million are required for engineering services and expenses. Second, education and state university capital expenditures, increase of $18 million. There is an increasingly critical need for new facilities in our teachers' colleges and other institutions of the state universities. For this purpose, my budget provides new appropriations totaling $33 million for the university facilities under the bond issue approved by the people. Provision is made for health and physical education buildings in 5 teachers' colleges: Buckport, Buffalo, New Platte, and Plattsburgh. Included is a $7.5 million appropriation for construction of facilities at the new college of Stony Brook on Long Island. The community colleges are continuing to expand and occupy a position of growing importance in the university system. To meet the state's statutory responsibility for 50% of construction costs, appropriations totaling $11 million are included in this budget. Included also is $3 million as the state subsidy to the Dormitory Authority program to expand living accommodations at the campuses of the university institutions. Third, mental hygiene, an increase of $16.4 million in construction. Despite the gratifying progress that has been made in treatment of the mentally ill, there is still much to be done to eliminate overcrowding and to replace obsolete facilities with modern mental hospital buildings. Provision also must be made for the increasing number of mentally retarded and awaiting admission to our schools, as I mentioned before. Included in this budget is $11.2 million, in addition to a deficiency appropriation of $9.4 million for the construction at the new Bronx State Hospital, and $13.6 million for the new school for mentally retarded at West Seneca. Now that covers the increased expenditures in the budget, and now let's take up the problem of balancing the 1959-60 budget itself. The state constitution requires that the governor submit to the legislature each year a budget containing a complete plan of expenditures and estimated revenues and recommendations for revenues sufficient to meet the proposed expenditures. It has always been interpreted to require a balanced budget. With expenditures estimated at $2.41 million, in other words, $2.041 billion, and estimated revenue yields of $1.617 billion from our established